Hello, everybody, and welcome to Guildmaster Gaming. This time I've got three people joining me for a talk about their film, Me, Myself, and the Void. This is another one we saw down at Film Quest. If you like these, I just always ask, please like these and share them. And if you follow me, please help us out, and because that will help us be able to do more of these sort of things. So right now we have two of the producers, Ryan Turner and Ryan Blewett, and the director who actually, from what I saw in the credits, was doing a lot more than just directing, and that is Tim Hautekiet. So I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves. Let's start with the producers. We'll work down to the producer director. But we'll start with you guys to go ahead and introduce yourselves. And when we get to you, Tim, give us a pitch of what Me, Myself, and the Void is all about.
Cool. I'm Ryan Turner, one of the producers, also one of the editors of the film, and also the co-founder of the production company of the film.
I'm Ryan Blewett. I'm the other producer, also the other editor. There's going to be a theme here.
Yeah, and I'm Tim Hautekiet, and so I am the co-writer, director, co-editor, and of Me, Myself, and the Void, which is a mystery comedy film about a struggling stand-up comedian who finds himself caught somewhere between life and death in a mysterious void, and he must figure out how he wound up motionless on his bathroom floor of the apartment he just moved into. And as he investigates how he wound up there, he sort of has to confront various aspects of his personal life, in particular a relationship, and that may be the key to his salvation. That's the movie.
So what we're looking at is kind of a near-death experience that this person's going through. And I know that's probably kind of an easy one to say, oh, I can kind of get where that comes from. But as the writer, Tim, where did this story idea kind of come from? What developed this?
Well, it was a few things. I mean, it's interesting because the first sort of few minutes of the story, like this idea of these two friends who are both in, the kind of those relationships you get into in your late 20s where things are just that little bit more complicated and a bit more real, and you're having to sort of figure out who you want to be going forward and all of that stuff, and the idea that they would both be in a place where they weren't sure and were considering the idea of like moving in together into an apartment together. That was sort of an idea I had sitting around for a long time, and I was like, I don't know if it's going to be a pilot for something, but you put your story brain on it and you realize that it's not really a story, it's just a situation. Like it's like, and then what, But it was sort of at some point it was then mulling it over with my co-writer Nick Aldershaw, and he and I were sort of, we were throwing ideas around. And once we sort of came up with the idea of, well, one of them doesn't move in with the other into this new bachelor pad, and then the hook of the movie being he's on the floor of this new apartment. Like he was supposed to have this, like exciting new chapter to his life where he rids himself of this relationship that was holding him back, but he's face flat on the bathroom floor of his new bachelor pad. And I think like once that question that was when we sort of knew, okay, that's a framework that that we could get excited about. And then the next big step was realizing that we wanted to make it about his relationships in the ways in which he'd maybe not been great, and what had kind of led up there. Like, could we sneak a sort of a relationship drama into this sort of big hook, and then that was definitely like it was that development together with my co-writer that made us sort of excited, that made us feel like this could be a movie.
Okay. So now that you've got your story together, I mean, we got the three main producers right here all talking. What brought you guys together? And for, I guess, more for Ryan and Ryan, what was it that you saw in the script, the screenplay that went, yeah, we want to make that?
Yeah, I mean, there's all of us live in Los Angeles, and all of us have known each other for quite some time. Like Ryan and I he was my first roommate in Los Angeles 10 years ago. Like we literally met each other on Craigslist, and it was going to be a 3-month thing, and now here we are, literally a decade later. And Tim and I have known each other sort of through like you could call it like the YouTube scene. Like both of us sort of were making YouTube videos and had a lot of friends who were doing that. And had when Tim moved to Los Angeles to get his his master's is the word I'm looking for. We met each other through some mutual friends, and it's just years, like truly like years and years of working on things together. That's like Funny or Die videos or sketches or short films, and sometimes you need someone to light it, and sometimes you need someone to act in it or voice it. Just know all wanted to be producers, writers, directors. These kind of higher up goals, but had done everything with each other all the time. And so in the spring of 2021, like freshly vaccinated and ready to like take over the world, Tim had come to me with the script that he had just finished, and I knew like literally from the first time he was telling it to me in a bar in Burbank, like his sort of the way he talked about it was about sort of the ways that like men who are trying to be nice failed at that, and that was sort of the angle he was coming in at it with, and I felt very like disturbed by the way he was talking about how these kind of men need to be improved on, and I just knew that it was something I needed to work on, and then that was made especially true when I read the script the next day. And at the same time, Ryan, who again I've known for as long, had just started this production company, and we came to them not because we were necessarily looking for a partner, but more like, hey, these are our friends, and we're going to tell them that we are going to make this movie literally hell or high water. We were going to like rent an apartment and hang trash bags in it as the void. Like literally, that was our plan. And then they read the script and it resonated with them. And them being Echo Band Pictures, and then from there, like we kind of forged a partnership, and we're off to the races.
Yeah, the other person who's not here is Zubin, who's my co-founder and partner in Echo Bend, and basically we were on the roof, and Ryan was like, you got to read this script, and we started a company that really began in music videos, commercials, short form content, but our whole grandstanding long-term vision for the company was always to be doing features and TV. So, year one of the company, we end up getting this script from Tim, and that Ryan, who we already know, is really excited to buy. And we read the script and we said, wow, this has to be made. Zubin was in Lionsgate in development for a bit, like as an intern, reading a bunch of scripts. And he said, this is one of the best scripts I've read. And so that was a big thing. And so I read it, and I resonated with it too. Like, I don't know how it's going to happen or what we're going to offer, but we need to help make this thing come to life. So while we're starting the company, a couple months into starting the company, we were like, okay, well, we have our first feature film, and apparently, according to these guys, it's shooting in the fall. So we have to figure out how we're going to make it shoot in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's comes together quite well. I just got to ask now that since he said it's about two roommates, and Ryan, you tell me your roommates. Did any of this resonate on a personal level? You don't have to answer. I'm just
no. We were pretty good roommates, I would say. We definitely had some drama and some crazy stories, but nothing that made its way into this project, but maybe in future projects.
Well, I think the thing that made this so, and I think the film lives up to this as well, hopefully, is that when you watch it, a lot of people have come up to me and FilmQuest after the screening. They said, wow, I feel called out, or like, man, I need to call my ex and like apologize. And I felt that same sort of lens. So not necessarily in us being roommates in that relationship, but definitely in being the guys that qualify themselves as nice, or the guys that qualify themselves as like, well, listen, I don't need therapy. Like, I'm fine. And which is usually not a good way to live life, because it's essentially a gym for your mind. And I was very resistant to it at first. And I remember for myself having an experience with a bunch of exes and my current girlfriend where the same problem was happening. And I realized I was the only reoccurring person in these problems. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm the consistent factor. And that was like a big wake up call for me. And so I think this script really spoke to that and my own personal journey, and Zubin's too. I think both of us at that time were like, wow, we really feel called out by this script in a great way.
Mm-hmm.
I can agree with that. After watching the film, you do get that feeling going, what can I do a little better with the relationships I've had?
Mm-hmm.
It really does resonate that way. Now you guys got, and I guess, as the producers all together working together, you got a great cast together for this. And because of that cast and the screenplay and everything else, you got nominated for over a half a dozen categories at FilmQuest.
Yeah.
And then you won the secret category for ensemble cast.
Mm-hmm.
So how did that go over for you guys? What was that like to kind of see that type of recognition at the festival?
Oh yeah, I mean it definitely was pretty amazing, and we had one of our cast members, Chris, was there with us at Film Quest, and it was cool to be to experience that with him. I mean the movie was written for Chris and Jack. It's like it's their real names and it's their character names, like, and from a pretty early like from the moment I got the script, and I know for Tim from a pretty early point in actually writing it. It was written for them. Like they've been making stand up or sketch comedy together for years and years, and they have like a whole rapport and a whole chemistry. And so like it was always very clear that the movie was built off of like these two guys. And then very early on, like we knew that Kelly was someone that we really wanted as the girlfriend role, and as Mia, and Akila was another good friend. Like all of these people, it was all very clear that we needed these very amazing performers to like fill out these different things, and so like to see that all come together and then be recognized was definitely very special.
And a shout out to, I think, one of the most underrepresented, or people don't sing the praises as much about the casting department, the casting directors. Like Ashley and Anna
Ashley Dunsing and Anna Mayworm cast the movie, and they're
instrumental, instrumental. And obviously, like, the beauty of, I think, what the whole ethos of what we're trying to do, Echo Bend, is like no ego, no politics, to just make the best project possible, right? And obviously you have to find ways to maneuver within the political system of Hollywood, but we're trying to minimize that and make the shooting experience and the whole experience of the film as enjoyable as possible. And here's two people, Ashley and Anna, they work in the industry, they have great relationships as casting directors, and they came into the script. And yeah, I mean, Ryan and Tim came in saying, hey, we really want Chris and Jack to be the leads. And I know that that's the big thing for any company, is they're like, well, who's the lead and how we're going to sell this to the distribution? And Zubin and I watched a couple of Chris and Jack videos, and we're like, well, yeah, of course they're the leads. Like, no way that they wouldn't be the leads. Their chemistry is off the charts. So we were only additive, and then I think that's the beauty of getting someone like Kelly Marie Tran, who's I think it's her first live action movie since Star Wars, and she's an incredible talent. And we were just trying to reach out to her from a bunch of different angles, and through the casting directors who are legit, right, who legitimize the process, as well as through personal relationships, and just filling out the cast that way. But I think it's a really, really cool, and I think the everything from James Babson, the roommate, who was like an amazing get too. Like, there was never a question of, is this going to be a great cast or not? And I think that's a really amazing thing to approach a movie with. And it's really cool to see it get recognized for that, because you make something, you put your head down, we were spending months editing it, and we're like, how does this resonate? I feel something when I watch it. I think it's funny. Do other people find that the same? And that's the joy of watching film with an audience.
Yeah, we definitely, I think it was nice it's an honor to win any award, but it felt cool to win that one, because I think we genuinely are proud of the cast. And I think I remember like a lot of in the process of leading up to shooting it and working with them and all that stuff, like, it wasn't lost on me as a director that, like, no matter how many cool transitions I figure out between the Void and the real world or whatever, it's like it's these actors in front of a Void. Like, if they're not selling you on the drama and the performances, like, it's not going to work. If they don't feel real, it's not going to come together. And so I think we're all very we're so happy with the cast we got, and we were glad to see Film Quest send us some love in that way.
Yeah.
So Tim, I'm going to kind of direct this at you. You're the one behind the our camera directing this cast, and you're saying it's an amazing cast. How did that make you feel, going, oh, this is really up to me to help them produce? Or were you able to just say, here's the situation, go for it?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We definitely did, as much as, on some of the big emotional scenes, we worked through it a lot beforehand. We had our fair share of meetings with the actors, like, and they came they're all pros, coming in with questions and trying to make sure they, what they kind of imagined had happened prior to the movie, and we would sort of discuss it, like as if the characters were real people. And I think for me, I mean, of course, yeah, it isn't, in many ways it's intimidating, right? Like, I mean, like the last two people who directed Kelly were Ryan Johnson and J.J. Abrams, and then there's me, like, so of course, like, like, I'm not, that wasn't lost on me, that like, oh, like I hopefully, but I think in a way you had to sort of put that aside at the same time, right? Like you have to kind of just meet them with story and talk through it like you would with any actor, and just figure out how you communicate together. I found on the directing side something I really enjoyed, based on how we shot the movie, since a lot of it was on a soundstage, was that I was able to like lean into blocking in a way I never had before, like really stage it like a theater play basically. And then our amazing DP Max, he basically he figured out with the amazing like Ronin technology, like just ways to like get the coverage like ongoingly, and the actors got a chance to like really do the scene. And I think that helped a lot, because then no matter where they were moving, we could still capture the whole sequence every time. And I think they enjoyed it from that perspective, because it felt a bit like theater. It's like, oh, you don't just have to jump in like, no, we're going to do this 5-minute scene, and you really get to like build up to your emotional climaxes and all of that stuff. So no, I mean, a joy. And the kind of, I always say that like writing challenges are hard, because writing challenges is like staring at a blank page and going, why isn't this like facing my own, whereas directing challenges, I'll take directing challenges any day. Like directing challenges are fun. It's like, those are good problems, it's like,
Okay, so let's kind of jump off with that, the good problems. What is something for you guys, either during production, after production, that you found that was a problem in a sense that you're looking at, that when it finished up, you went, that was good. I really liked that.
mm. Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, certainly production things always come up, like you're always fighting time, I think, and from what I understand, this is true at any scale, whether you're our movie, which we shot in 15 days plus a pickup day. So 16 days of production, and then more if you add the build and stuff. But at the same time, like not having all the time in the world forces you to like figure out what's important, figure out what the core of something is. A good example that comes to mind in response to that question would be that the sort of the big emotional climax sequence between Jack and Mia, which is where Jack and Kelly are opposite each other, and I think they're really incredible in that scene. And the day before, we didn't get everything we needed, so that was a very stressful day. And so I remember like I asked Ryan, I was like, just send me the proxies from today of shooting, and I will edit a very rough version of what we have, and then I'll figure out what we need like to make our day tomorrow. And I think when we got to the end of that Friday and they did that scene together where you sort of get the emotional catharsis of the film, that was the day where I was like, I think we're going to be okay. I think we're going to have a movie, because it's going to build up to this moment. And, and that came from the stress, but led to something good. So that would probably be the first thing I would think of.
Yeah. For me, it's like, so we are doing this project from the EchoBend side. Like it was one of many we've done at this point we're a 3-year-old company. So this is like the 3rd year we're starting, and this was year 1 that we made this movie. And in the midst of doing everything else, running the company, like doing projects to try and pay the bills to hopefully help fund the rest of the movie, we had to figure out how we're going to get across the line in editing, which is why all 3 of us introduced ourselves as editors. It was a lot of baton passing. Now, I know like in most films, there's a very structured editing schedule. And with ours, the most frustrating thing that I found was just not being able to block off exclusive time to just be like, this is 3 weeks, we're going to get it done. I mean, and that was killing me as a person that likes to finish projects very fast and efficiently, to have it drag on to like, I think 6 or 7 months. But what's interesting, and we organically kind of found this, because I think in the creative process, it's really important. There's an element of play, and there's an element of organic kind of like things seeping into your brain, like that kind of through time allow the project to grow in a way that you never anticipated it. When you're banging your head against the wall and you're every day just editing and being like, how am I going to solve this? And there's a possibility you wake up next morning and have an epiphany, but I think the possibility goes way up when you actually step a little bit away from it, right? And you let your mind go do other things. So Tim was going back and forth between London. Ryan had his own stuff. I had my own stuff. So we'd be like, all right, they did a cut. Now I'll do a cut. And then this, and we ended up finding in that process these really beautiful moments that while each one came in with a new fresh. When Tim came back from London, it was like, oh, there's a new fresh lens. What about trying this? Or I've been mulling over this problem right here. Let's fix this. And oh, what about this for the edit? And so we actually, like, you know, we screened an early cut of the movie, and I remember the DP saying something very specific where Max said, you know, we have a really good movie on our hands, but this could be great. And so we go, okay, well, now we have a kind of bar to reach for. And what does that mean? What does great mean at this stage? And so you kind of lean into what are the things that are really, really working in this movie? Let's lean into that heavier. And then what are the things that really need to be fine-tuned? And it's let's tighten all that up and come in ruthlessly. And I think that's that. So there's the gift and the curse of the long timeline is that, you know, in the doing the little sprints here and there, you're able to chip away. You're like, all right, I got 30 minutes here to do a repass on this scene before Tim sits down and sees it. So I'm like, all right, crap, I'm gonna, you know, and I'm like, what do you think? I don't know. And he's like, wow, okay, this, and that springboards him on a new idea. And then Ryan has an idea, and it's like, so it's one of those challenges that I think ultimately is really insightful in terms of the creative process in general for our future features. Is a lot of times, you know, in the studio system, in the way that Hollywood functions, it's all deadlines, and you know, it is the banging the head against the wall. It's like until either your head breaks or the wall breaks. Like there's no give of either one. So it's like for us, it's like, well, there's an element of, if you're making a movie, there's a joy, there's a play, and there's an organic kind of growth to it. And that happens in the lead up to the writing process. Like Tim and I were talking, he has a new movie, and we were at Film Quest, and Tim's like, I just cracked this new element of the film that, like, you know, we've been mulling over for months, and Ryan's on board to produce that as well. And like, it's a really exciting project, but like, that's the kind of thing where it's like you step away and these beautiful things just kind of happen with your brain and your subconscious, where that time allows you to make something truly great as opposed to settle for very good. And that's what we are aiming for constantly, is like, if it needed time and we couldn't solve it moments right then, a lot of time was maybe financially, or like I was talking to Zubin and I'm like, well, we do kind of need a pickup date. And he's like, oh, like, where's this money going to come from? I was like, we'll figure it out. And so we had to kind of like, we were a little bit dragging our feet until like another job came in. We were like, boom, it's July. And okay, cool. Now I have a place and we can shoot at my place. And like, so the whole pickup shot at my house, and it was like, all right, cool, I have a house. Now we can shoot at my house. But if we had been doing that January, February, I wouldn't have had a house, and I wouldn't have had these. So it's like this beautiful kind of organic thing that happens when you're just working towards a similar goal, and you don't have like a gun up to your head. You know, you're just kind of like, let's make something great, and let's not settle for something. Obviously, you have to have deadlines, right? But you can't settle. You push and you push and you push.
So Ryan, do you have anything you want to add to what they've said, or do you think they've covered it?
I think they've covered it. Yeah. No, I think, I mean, I look at the whole process of this film in like a very positive way. Like anything that happened that was a problem, and you know, for most of production, I was sort of like a meat shield in front of Tim, making sure that the only thing that he needed to worry about was the creative elements. And so when lunch wasn't on time, or when, you know, like when those little things happened, they all felt so minor to the fact that there was just this sort of like euphoric atmosphere around the whole thing about like, wow, we really get to do this. Like, we're really out here sort of, any way you slice it, like we've made it, you know, like we're making a movie. And could money be better? Could certain elements of our life be better? Like, for sure. But like, isn't this what we set out to do? Like, weren't we kids that dreamed that we would be here, and here we are? And I think that like that carried through the editing, and it carried through our premieres and the festivals that we've done. And so, you know, yeah, it's all, I think it just goes to show that like, if the energy is right, and you are in a position where you really are doing what you're meant to do, and you are doing it with like, in a very joy forward way, like any of those problems are so secondary, because they're just water under the bridge, you know?
Okay. So we got this movie, Me, Myself, the Void, and it sounds like Film Quest was the start of your film festival experience with this.
It was actually the opposite. It was actually the end of our film.
Oh, the end of it.
Yeah.
Okay. So now that it's finished up, what are the future plans for the movie?
Well, I mean, something that we've learned, like we said a few times, like this was our first feature as a team, and so we've been building a lot of the track as the train has been moving, and we have found out how hard it is to build track, and and hopefully, you know, like we've cleared the way for future projects, and it'll be really smooth. But we really were developing the way that we do things, and making sure that that was really sound. And we, you know, like you realize pre-production of a movie is a whole beginning, middle, and end. It's a whole arc. Shooting the movie is a whole arc. Editing the movie is a whole arc. And I don't, you know, then you finish the movie, and in some ways you think, I finished the movie, I'm done. But instead, you have as much work as you have already done to do on distribution. It is as difficult as film financing. It is as difficult as production. It is as difficult as anything. There's a lot to consider, and we have spent the last several months like learning a lot and having a lot of conversations. Some good, most bad, and we have you know, we don't have anything specific necessarily to talk about right now, but we do have like a partner that we're working on the final details with. Like as we're talking right now, it's the end of the year, and so everything is sort of ground to a halt. But hopefully in the beginning of the year, we will be able to like close that deal and make sure everyone's happy. And by you know, the spring-ish of next year, the movie will be public. Like the goal right now is to get the movie in as public of a way as we can. You know, like we're ready for the world to see it.
I think there's an ultimate, like, you know, the goal is to build an audience, and with Echo Bend, the goal is this is the first movie, and I think it's the first staple of like what we want to be making as a movie. We talk about the brand being somewhere between A24 and Amblin, which we really love, and this is a perfect movie to kind of put that forward. We also talk about like how every movie we make, or every movie we are a part of, is approached with passion, and you can feel that when you're watching it, that you can feel the beating heart of the movie. And for this one, I feel like that. Another movie I just saw recently, Godzilla -1, is just filled to the brim with heart, and you can just feel the passion, you know, seeping through it. And I'm like, wow, that's to me what excites me in movies. It's an energy transference medium, and everyone's all worried about, and understandably worried about AI and all these other. And I go, great, let them lean on like automated means, because when you're making something that's built with hands, audiences resonate like they do. There's an intangible element to film and art in general that I believe audiences respond to. So for us, you know, this is the first of many films that we want to be doing. And similar to the process in editing, we're not going to settle for something that we don't feel is going to be right for the movie. And at the end of the day, if we need to, we will take it upon our own hands and like figure out a way to get to an audience. But I think we're really excited by it. I think we're really proud of it, and I think we're excited. You know, we have a lot of avenues, like Ryan's saying, but we'll see. I mean, the key is to get it to an audience, and that's the baseline. And the good thing is that Jack and Chris, Tim, a lot of the people involved in the film already have audiences that we can tap into. So I think, you know, we have a baseline that we can build from, and we can keep working from there. But we are very excited to get the movie out to the world, and then a whole nother chapter begins, which is the marketing of the film. And that's and in spite of, you know, other teams or marketing teams that you're partnering with, you never stop. You know what I mean? I had a friend that released the movie wide to theaters, and he's cutting to his own BTS footage, you know, on his Instagram just to kind of help promote it. And it's like, so it's like embracing the fact that, all right, this is just, there's no relaxing. There's no like, all right, cool. Let me just watch my numbers rise as I'm sitting in my lawn. It's like, no, you have to be out there carving the path with a machete, cutting down weeds yourself. But at least there's 3 of us doing it, or 4 of us doing it. And, you know, it's not so lonely.
Okay, so let me ask you this then. So if they didn't get a chance to see your film at a festival, where can they look for information to find out what will be happening to it? What's your website? That way I can, you know, we can direct people to.
We do, yeah. So we have a website. We have voidmovie.com. Yes,
Yeah.
voidmovie.com is one way to get information. And then also me, myself, and the Void on Instagram is a pretty reliable spot where like any new updates, and especially like when you know, there hasn't been anything in a few weeks, but as soon as we have distribution news, we're going to be really using that make sure that information is super public and super accessible. And then also just like the company's website, EchoBend Pictures, or EchoBend.com, EchoBend Pictures on Instagram are also two ways that we're going to be using those as well to get the movie out. So between EchoBend's presence and the film specific presence, we will be very loud as soon as we have things we have things to be loud about.
We have a mailing list too. So EchoBend's
Yeah.
website has a mailing list, and we generally kind of keep everyone updated on the projects that we're doing. And this is a big one. Like we just sent one out recently talking about the Ensemble Cast Award, which we're very excited about. So, I think if people are interested in that, and then the Void and the Instagram and the website, I think is good ways. But hopefully you won't have to seek it out. Hopefully you will be sought out to see it. That's the dream.
Okay, so it sounds then we've got the wrap kind of going on Me, Myself, and the Void. So for you as individuals or as a team, what's up next?
Well, we are definitely Tim's next film is something that he's been working on for many years. It's like a total passion project, and the script is amazing, and it's logistically and financially and many other ways like much bigger than Void was. So we've been spending the last few years sort of getting that together. The lead producer on that his name is Nish, and so we've had some exciting news about like tax stuff is not that exciting, but when it's about a film you're making, it's exciting. So hopefully at some point next year, maybe in the spring or early summer, we'll be out shooting that. But then also as a company, EchoBend, we have like a really strong sort of development slate that we're ready now that this one is sort of in the twilight of its like active life. We're really ready to like sort of seek out other sort of get those projects that we've been developing for the last months and year sort of out on their feet, and hopefully when we close the distribution deal, that really opens the door for those. I know that like Ryan has a great script that he is hoping to direct. I have a great script that I am hoping to direct, and a bunch of other directors around here.
Yeah, I think it's funny because the whole premise of what we're trying to do is come from an abundance mindset, meaning like I love a world where everyone gets to tell their story and make their movie, and like I think that oftentimes it's one person gets their toe in, and then they're like, all right, now I'm the one, and now I'm the brand, and now I'm the this. But I think if we're doing everything right, we're giving a lot of people opportunities to tell their story with the support of a network and community behind them that can then help. To me, studios as the baseline, when they're functioning at the best, are offering studio notes, meaning like we're coming at it from a marketing and kind of like, hey, an audience perspective or overall brand identity. But adding value, right? Adding value to the project by saying, hey, you weren't thinking about the trailer, but like, let's think about the trailer or the poster. When you're on set, let's also shoot this so we can think about the marketing. And like, it's all that stuff that I think is, very icky to a lot of filmmakers, understandably, because they see that's insincere to their vision. But at the same time, whether they're coming face to face with, a $10,000 check after a $2 million movie, or they're coming it's like the realities of the industry are going to hit you whenever. So we might as well hit you early. And we might as well open up that being like, hey, this is what you need to build an audience. This is what it needs to get it out to an audience. And I don't come at it from a perspective on like, oh, it must be this genre, this genre. I feel like to me, the dream is it's passion and because if I told you today to go watch, for example, Godzilla -1, and I'm like, it's a character study drama. It's like is it a horror? It's a monster movie, but it's this. It's like, it doesn't really matter what the genre is if I'm telling you what to go see it. It's not like you're like, does it fit into the thriller conventions? It's like, no, is it good, and did I want to see it? And organically, word of mouth, you go and see more. Like Barbie, it's like, what is Barbie genre-wise, right? It's a Greta Gerwig film. Like that's, at the end of the day, that's what it is. And it fits under that, great. But is it a rom-com? It's like comedic? It doesn't matter. It's go see Barbie, and you did. Everyone did. And everyone saw Oppenheimer too. And it's like, what's that genre? It's like, I think that I'm not coming at it from like what genre it must be, but I think from like a, hey, let's make the best movie that's going to resonate the most with audiences, and let's add value as a community and a team, where all three of us were doing that on this film, you know. And to Tim's credit as like the director, was super receptive to us working together, and has really set the bar for me for any future director that we work with as a company, because he's an easy collaborator, he's an amazing leader, and like I think that's, you know, a testament to him and is a credit to him in this project.
How about you,
I,
Tim?
well, I mean, I suppose Ryan kind of sort of set it up top, but yeah. So I have this. I've definitely had this passion project I've been working on for many years. Confidence, but certainly we had some good news this year, and hopeful for that. But you know, I'm always noodling away on, like, Nick and I, co-writer of Me, Myself, and the Void, and I are have a new outline, and we're ready to start writing that. You know, I have some sort of shorter form projects, some of which I made last year, some of which I'm still making this coming year, like music videos and various things. So you know, I think the sort of, you know, the always look for the next thing to create. You know, you always have to kind of keep going, stay fresh, keep putting things out there, keep trying stuff, challenging yourself. You know, it's kind of it's like, I'll be doing this, you know, whether there's a big whether there's a big audience on it, or a small, or it's just me by myself, like I'll be doing stuff. You know.
Okay. Sounds great. So, Ryan, I want to jump back to Echo Bend for a moment, because you've mentioned some things about Echo Bend and kind of the way you're going and what you're kind of looking for. But it sounds like, from what you're saying, is you're not going to be focusing like on any one particular genre, but you're looking more for the content of the story. Can you tell us a little bit about what you kind of see as the underlying theme of what Echo Bend is wanting to produce in the future?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a very organic thing. When this script came across our desk, we were like, this is it. Like, this is we knew this felt like, we didn't even know what Echo Bend was. We were like, this feels like Echo Bend somewhat. Um, so I think, you know, I'm generally an optimist of life. I know there's a lot of movies doing a lot of different things. To me, the movies that I'm interested in being a part of are movies that I think objectively help try to make the world a little bit better. You know, like if someone watches the movie, which even after Void, and says, wow, I need to call my ex-husband and like come clean up with him and just have like say, or man, I need to be more vulnerable in my relationship with my partner. And I'm like, wow, okay, cool. Well, regardless if it's one person or if it's 1,000 people, like somebody watched this movie and felt like they should be a better version of themselves. And that's like, to me, an incredible feat in a project. And so I'm like, great, let's do more of that. Let's do more projects that are made from passionate places, that are speaking about interesting things. And yeah, I mean, like I said Amblin 824 because I think there's an element of like the family fun of an Amblin movie with kind of the recent edginess of 824 that can kind of bridge both of those things. And I think, you know, we'll kind of, it's an ethereal element that we're finding out as we're carving the company. But like there's a moment where we go, oh yeah, we have a couple of scripts that have come across Echo Bend that were like, yeah, that done. Like, I mean, Serenade's Ed, Tim's project being another one where we're just like, yeah, that's an easy low hanging fruit for like a further one that's going to help cement the voice. And I, as the co-founder of the company, I'm working on a project that it's fun because Tim and my voice aren't like super desperate. Like I like comedy sci-fi as well, and like so I'm really kind of working on a comedy sci-fi project that I want to make for a very low budget as well. So I want to show the feasibility of that as a business model. And I'm not trying to like cut corners and not pay people well, because that's usually what low budget filmmaking is. I think with The Void, we were able to simultaneously make a project that has no asterisks, and also it's not like people were paid incredibly well, but they certainly weren't losing money and they were able to pay their rent. And like I think there's an element of that we want to maintain through every future, like Ryan's movies as well. Like I know he's approaching it from that perspective, is like, let's try to figure out a way we can make our movies without having to go to people that might not add value, and from a perspective of story or craft. We want to be able to help use our commercials and other projects to help fund and feed back into the projects that we're passionate about. And I think passion, if you're going to boil down what is the intangible, to me it's passion. If I can hear why if I hear someone saying I want to make a movie because, oh yeah, no, thrillers are trendy, and what's also trendy is this, and it's like, and I go, I'm already checked out. Like, I'm not interested. You can go make that movie, and I'm sure it'll sell really well. That's not something that I'm interested in. But if I'm hearing someone tell a story, and I hear the heart of the movie, and I go, wow, I get chills, like just hearing why you're trying to make this movie. Then I go, okay, cool. I feel like that's a good place to start from, and then let's figure out how we're gonna make it happen. So, we had a film, Dirty Oyster. I was chosen as one of 6 films in Frontiers in Fantasia Fest this year out of thousands of submissions, and that was another script that we really are excited about because it's made with a lot of heart. I mean, it's talking about love, and it's like a really beautiful fantasy rom-com sci-fi blend, that we really are excited by. And so I think, there's occasionally these projects that come through, and we're like, great. And hopefully similar to the A24 model, which is like, hey, let's just start putting movies out there, and then eventually it becomes its own lane. I think there is a very vacant lane that we're going to try and carve out, and it'll be very clear once it's starting to be carved, and then those projects will just find their way to us because they're going to go, oh, cool, we fit under this umbrella. But in the meantime, we're just firing off gut instinct and just what excites us, I guess, and what is feasible to make on the limited resources that we have.
All right, sounds great. So I'm going to now throw out a question for all of you, and it's going to be a kind of a two-part question, because as we're kind of winding down here. But for each of you, what was the inspiration to become a filmmaker? Like what films did you see that inspired you, or what happened earlier on in life that made you go, that's what I want to do? And how do you keep that inspiration alive now?
I can speak. I can start if you want. Yeah, there's a book that really changed my life in a lot of ways, but it's called Mastery by Robert Greene. And in Mastery, they talk about this idea that like everybody has something that doesn't feel like work to them, that might feel like work to other people. Something that when you're doing it, you can get into a flow state, and time just kind of dilates in a sense that lots of time will pass, and you're like, whoa, I thought I was just spending 5 minutes, and 5 hours have gone by. And so that could be everything from playing tennis, or even just going through. Some people really love spreadsheets, some people love making movies. Like for me, it's always been, and I just kind of was in film growing up, or not film growing up, projects growing up, and I was like in school, and I realized I could make films for school projects, and I was putting way more work than it would be to write a paper. But I was like, I would rather put in 10 times the amount of hours and make a film than just spend an hour and write a paper. So like I was like, oh, there's something here where like, man, if I could do this for a living, because I'm already doing it on my own free time, this would be an amazing thing. And I think the other element to that question of how do you maintain that passion, for me, it's the who you surround yourself with. I feel like everyone has their fire lit inside of them. And oftentimes, if you're around the wrong people are just blowing it out constantly in LA. Like that's just the feeling, is people are just like trying to go up and blow your fire out or throw water on it. You're like, stop it. I'm excited by this. Like we're playing make believe. This is cool. And everyone's like, no, it's a business. It's Wall Street. It's this. And you're like, no, get away from me. So for me, it's like, it's maintaining and surrounding yourself with people that also have their fire lit to constantly re-inspire yourself. And that's what creating EchoBend was the purpose of, is like I was really, my partner is an amazing businessman, and I really felt fortunate to know him, and we're like, okay, well, let's build this thing that hopefully can be a place where other people that have their fire lit can come together and make cool things together. And it's not all that nonsense about like, oh, who's hierarchy, all this stuff. Like it's just about, let's just do cool things. I'll be a DIT on a project, I'll be an AD, an AE, whatever. We'll just do projects and make cool things and help and support each other. And then in doing so, what's better than that? Similar to what Ryan was saying earlier.
Yeah, I think that like for me, there's certainly some combination of like some ingredients were put into the pot, like Lord of the Rings and the Phantom Menace and Finding Nemo and the thing. But like at some point, some inherent something in me felt the need to express myself through making videos and whatever. I know in like 7th grade I did like a book project, and I asked the teacher if I could make a film of the book, and it like she didn't know how to answer because no one had ever asked that. Like you're just supposed to make like a diorama or whatever. And I was like, no, I'm gonna make a film of this book. But I didn't have any friends, so I acted in every role, and I had my sister be the shoulder for cross coverage. Which, if I'm thinking about it, I'm like, man, at 12 years old, I had figured something out. And then and then from there, it was always, if I think about it, it was only ever like doing things that I needed to do, like some sort of like letting out steam because it's burning so hard. And I also was a freshman in high school, the first year of YouTube in 2006, and all of a sudden there is like a way to put like there's a place for the things that you're making, and that was like enormous for my brain. And then that becomes second steps of like seeing the Coen brothers and Wes Anderson for the first time and like being like, wait, it can be this. And as far as like how to keep it alive, it's just, yeah, I mean, I feel very fortunate that like from film school in New York, coming out here and meeting Ryan and being part of this community, it's definitely, there's a large amount of like a need to express and a need to like slough something off of yourself and get it out into the world. But also like it's and this project was the premier example of it. Is it's like the space that you have between people. It's a certain like fraternity that we built in a certain, not to say it's exclusively a fraternity, but you know, but like there was a real like loving and a real joy and a real care to the way that that we did this project, and it's that is the way I want to always live, like not just as a filmmaker, but as a partner, as a father, all these things. And so it's just kind of like the continued pursuit of being the best person that I can be. And I know that one of the ways I can continue to express that is through storytelling.
Yeah, I think I would similarly credit. It's funny, we actually have overlapping origin stories here, where I similarly noticed that, for instance, like in school, if the project had something to do with video, it was fun. School became fun when that was the, like, and so that played a role. I also think probably, like, I would say my equivalent to some of the options, to some of the media that inspired Ryan that he mentioned, is like, for me, a lot of it was definitely like Star Wars, Indiana Jones, but then very specifically when they started re-releasing them and they included the behind the scenes. Like there was something about the, like, oh, I love this story, I love this world, and then here's just this very matter, like, people make this, and look, this is who they are, and this is what they do, and here they are talking about their intention. And I think, like, as a young person, I think there was something very like wow, I want to do that, and then that would turn into making things with friends in the backyard, and like similar to what Ryan said, oh, there's a place where I can put it, like when early days, YouTube was around, like, and then but I think it's perpetual, that interest that then only grows as you learn what else there is. You start with like the big fantasy stuff, and then you have your mind blown at film school when you are introduced to a whole new bunch of things, and people tell you need to watch this obscure Italian film from the 60s, and like, whoa, like you just keep going, and you just realize there's so much, and you'll never ever and honestly, weirdly, that's what I would say I come back to. It's like, if I think of this year, when Ryan Blewett and I had the privilege of going out to in Italy to a film festival that screened there, and we went and checked out like a Fellini museum that was there, because we were in Rimini, the like town where he was originally born, and it's just remembering that, like, I'll never know all of it, and so just go and be inspired by like the best antidote is go and consume art together, and then discuss, why did that work for you, why did that not work for you. Like, we're still movie fans as well. Like, we meet up every week and we see movies, old movies, new movies, like, and it's endless. Like, and that's how I keep it alive. It's like remembering that I do love this, like, and because I think it can, the trick the industry can play on you, I think, is that you can start to see it as just like career moves in a game and politics, and then that sometimes takes away from the, like, like I think I like Ryan's. I feel like I have to keep saying surnames because I have two Ryans on this. But the idea of like it's an energy transference medium. Like that you feel you need to go see things that still light that up for you. And I think again, unique trick of the film industry is that sometimes you find yourself going to things where it's like, well, I should go see this because people are going to be talking about it in the industry, or because you're like you didn't as a kid expect that when you decided to get into this you would start going, oh, I should go see that movie I'm not interested in because a friend of mine worked on it. Stuff like and so you have to remember to like do that because those are good professional ethics to have, and it's good courtesy and all those things, but at the same time go and see things that fill up your cup creatively, that inspire you, so that's the trick for me. It's like find the things that inspire me. I similarly am a big fan of I'll cheer for Godzilla -1, like I mean, like go see the Japanese Godzilla movie, guys. It's really good.
This interview is sponsored by Godzilla
Yeah.
-1. See they're releasing a black and white.
I saw that, and it's already the #1 box office weekend for a Japanese live action project. So, good. I was packed. The theater was packed last night. I went, and it was crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy because it's been out for weeks too.
Yeah.
Yep. So
long-winded answer, but there you go.
No, that's great. And in some way,
long-winded way of saying go see Godzilla -1 now in theaters.
Yeah. They're not paying us. Like it's like we really should get on
They're
that.
definitely not paying us.
So you've kind of answered this final question I usually throw out to everybody, but to wrap things up as we're pulling in on an hour here. If someone was to come to you and say, I want to become a filmmaker, what advice would you give them?
The simplest answer is make films. Like if you want to be a filmmaker, it is entirely an uncomplicated thing to do. It is in fact one of the easiest things to do because you probably have a phone and you could do it there. So in one way it's simple. But in a more complicated way, I would say that like my sort of growing advice for people who want to become filmmakers or further themselves as filmmakers is that the focus on how to be a filmmaker is sort of a downstream solution for an upstream problem, and you should focus on, in fact, how do you become a better person? Like how do you build out really strong habits? How do you build out a really strong sense of love? How do you build out like a perpetuating sense of happiness? Like there are things like how are you good without making movies, without anything else? How do you what is that you need to do? And if you can fix that upstream thing, all of a sudden the filmmaking becomes great. And if you put too much focus in getting the new Sony camera or getting a better lens or getting whatever it might be, you might purify the water for a bit, but it's gonna seep back down. So I would say that my big thing would be like make sure that you feel good as a person first.
Yeah, for me, it is definitely like everyone's like, oh yeah, grab a camera, and it makes sense. I think the big thing is depends on what you want to do, because you need to pay your bills, and this is where different people have different scale of bills to pay, or some people have support, and everyone has different. If you're someone that can just move to LA and like just take your shots over and over again and then do that, but a lot of us have to figure out a way to pay the bills in the meantime. So figure out what craft within the umbrella of filmmaking you can do that people will pay you for. Mine was editing, so and then eventually writing, and then eventually directing. But you don't start getting paid to direct, that's for sure. So I think find what craft it is that is the most enjoyable for you, that the most people will pay for, and it usually is like it could be gripping, it could be gaffing, it could be DP. Which the higher the hierarchy, the harder it is to get into there. So start as an assistant editor, start as a camera assistant, start as a PA, start as whatever. And even that is sometimes really challenging because it relies on who you know and like people are like, oh, I started out on a Marvel set. It's like, you know how hard it is to even be a PA on a Marvel set? Most people are like 30 plus. Like there's not like you have to know the right people because everyone wants that job. And so you have to get it could be classist, it could be relationship based. It's like all these things where it's like, oh, my father runs this and I got this. It's like great. If you don't have any contacts and you're trying to get into this industry, you're just gonna have to pay your bills first, but find something that pays your bills that allows you the free time to do the passion. Because you could be, I think the story is like Ang Lee was a doctor, brain surgeon, something until he was 40, right, and then made Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. That's a great path, you know. I mean, because his life is enriched through all the experience he's had as a doctor, and then or brain surgeon or whatever. There's a better version of this story that I'm like butchering, but my understanding of Ang Lee's career path based on like
Let's ask him.
Yeah.
Hey, can you come out?
But I think like my understanding is that essentially, you know, it's never too late to tell stories. It's you can be honing your craft, you can be in theater, you can be in improv, you can be doing it in your hometown, you can be doing it in LA, whatever you're doing. Know that when you move to LA, the clock starts at 0, no matter how old you are. If you're moving in at age 50, you're starting at year 0. That's fine, and that's totally an acceptable thing. But you can make a living and do your thing wherever you are. Like a lot of times, it's financially. It could be financially irresponsible to move to LA, or it could be financially responsible if you have a friend that has a house in Brentwood or something, right? Some people have different connections. So figure out what works for you and find a way to get paid.
Yeah, I think similar, you know, and it's funny because it's the kind of advice that I can think of a time in my career where just make things would drive me nuts because I'm like, I am. But that said, it is true, like, because the truth is, you know, this industry decides how big a megaphone you get. Maybe, you know, the scale of the audience that you play to, it can decide whether you're in the union, what scale of project, how much money you get. But the industry doesn't get to decide whether you're an artist. It doesn't get to decide whether you're a filmmaker. So you know, you just are that. And if you are someone who goes out there and figures out how to get projects made at whatever scale you want to get them made, that's something you have control over. And I think to echo what you know, what my producers are saying, it's you have to figure out a way to do it sustainably, though. Like, do it sustainably. Take care of yourself, be responsible financially. It's also not a race, you know, like for instance, and I'm aware that I'm saying that as someone who, like, in the grand scheme of things, I'm incredibly grateful. Like, you know, I'm in my early 30s and I've got me, myself, and the void under the belt. So I'm in the scale of things, I'm doing all right. But at the same time, I shot it 8 years after moving to LA. You know what I mean? It doesn't just like and it felt right, you know, and I did it with the right people, and I did it with people who I'd gotten to know as friends, as Ryan was saying, we knew each other socially, had worked on each other's things. It was very egoless. So when the time came to make a first feature, it was like, well, I'm going to lean on this community that I've built, you know. So it's not a race. Like, it'll come. And I think if you're persistent and you sort of, you know, are willing to like deviate a little bit, but you kind of have a North Star that you're following, you know, with persistence, I think you can get there, you know. But again, do it sustainably, because you can burn out. So
Yep. So yeah, I work with a lot of artistic types because, you know, I don't know if you heard, I do books, movies, and tabletop games. So it's a lot of
Oh, and
different art.
tabletop games, amazing.
Yeah, that's what all this stuff is tabletop games. Just part of the collection. Uh, but some of the things you guys said kind of remind me, and that is like what you were saying, Tim, is we always kind of joke about with people, you know, to become an overnight success takes at least 10 years.
yeah,
Sure. Totally.
yeah,
And
At
when
least.
you're talking to artistic talents, it's like, so what do you do for your day job?
Yeah.
yeah.
So
No,
as we're wrapping up here, is there any final comments or things you would like to throw out there for people?
Go see Godzilla -1.
I like it's just to echo yours. I mean, I have a friend that was teaching basketball camp and made his feature way before I did because he was able to save up money and help invest into his own project. So like, I think like Tim said, it's not a race. It's I love filmmaking, and like there's an abundance of movies that can be made at any given time. Everyone has their opportunity, and everyone's time will come when it's meant to, as long as you're pushing the ball forward every day, you know. So it's I think that everybody's in different financial positions, so it's very unfair. And to be fair, like, as it's coming out with like a lot of the relationships that a lot of people that you've known that have been overnight successes truly have been born into it, and that's not a fault of theirs. Good for them, you know. It's just, I think you have to be realistic. People are like, I'm moving to LA and I give myself 2 years, and it's like, I'm like, well, you might as well just stay where you are, because 2 years in LA, like, it's like, that's like saying I give myself, I'm gonna buy 10 lottery tickets, and if I don't win the lottery, then I'm stopping to buy tickets. You're like, all right, cool, good for you. Like, you might as well just not pay money for lotto tickets. But yeah, I think we're really excited about people who see the void, and we appreciate you taking this time to interview us.
Yeah, certainly.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, thank you for taking this time. It's cool getting to kind of share the behind the scenes, and like what I think, you know, what I hope is nice is you can just see it's just, you know, down to earth. Like, we try to be realistic. We try to be very real in all of this. So, you know, like, so go see Godzilla -1.
Yeah.
I find that very humorous for myself, because earlier today I had several friends that also recommended it to me that I needed to go see it. So it's just,
It's kind of a sleeper. It's kind of a sleeper hit. Like, yeah.
Well, funnily enough, it is a filmmaking, like, you know, like, oh, it's kind of like a nice story, right? Like, it was made a lot more efficiently than a lot of like the American Godzillas were. It's kind of back in the hands of like the original culture, the original studio, a filmmaker who had a taste, like, you know, it's like and it's nice to see, to you know, to Ryan's point, audiences are responding to that authenticity. So it's like, it's actually like, it's a like, and it feels weird to be championing, you know, the the 400th Godzilla property as like, no, this one's special, but it is.
But they've been on a roll too. Shin Godzilla is a ripper as well. So
yeah.
You know what? I'm changing my final statement. Go see Shin Godzilla for rent on Amazon Prime and Apple TV.
so get your fill of Godzilla movies. And
yeah.
all right. Hey, thanks, guys. This has been wonderful talking with you, Ryan, Tim. Their movie is Me, Myself, and the Void. Remember, they've got it. You're working on distribution, so we'll just have to keep an eye out for where we can see it next.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully it won't take too long, and you guys can kind of see things work and plow that back into Echo Bend, because it sounds like you've got some great ideas and just a great kind of program that you're implementing. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.